At Team Toyota, they've been selling and servicing new and used Toyotas in your community for over 50 years. And you can reserve your next new Toyota with them today. You'll get a realistic timeline, and even in this crazy market, they won't charge you over MSRP. Or don't wait at all. With over 75 certified Toyotas, including a bunch of RAV4 and Highlanders, you can drive one home today. And you can always trust them to maintain your current vehicle. Their service and collision centers are high-tech, comfortable, and will save you time and money. Team Toyota can help you go anywhere you want, but they'll always be your hometown team. Just visit teamtoyota.net and choose from 3 locations in Langhorne, Glen Mills, or Princeton. The Phillies are 2 wins away from winning the World Series. This is the Phillies Talk podcast. It's Corey Seidman and Jim Salisbury here with you the morning after what's probably going to be an unforgettable Game 3, a game that Phillies fans are, going to be celebrating for years and years to come, particularly if they can finish this job. The Phillies matching the World Series record, Jim, with 5 home runs, hitting Lance McCullers hard right out of the jump. Another good start from Ranger Suarez. The crowd was crazy again. The Phillies are leading in the World Series. Just so much positivity coming out of Game 3, a swing game. Just to go back to this, something we talked about earlier in the week, the rain out Monday really helped the Phillies. It pushed things back a game. They had a better arm going in Game 3, and everything came out to fruition. Bryce Harper sending the crowd into a frenzy in the first inning with that home run, and just everything thrived from there.
You're right. Once again, the Philadelphia Phillies players performed, in a great way. Their behind the scenes people performed in a great way. We'll get into that. And those 46,000 fans performed in a great way. I mean, they just live up to their reputation as the best fans in pro sports, like every day. And what was that quote Rob Thompson had about the fans? He says they're like the Eagles; they get better every day. Where the Eagles keep putting these, every week they're 7-0. Every week they play a little bit better and they get better. So Thompson, just kind of weaving it all in there and really encapsulating what a special time it is for Philadelphia sports fans. I didn't walk out of that ballpark till 2:30 last night. You were just ahead of me. When your team is in the postseason, covering a team in the World Series in the postseason, and when the team finishes with 11 games on the road, it's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting. Last night driving home, I had to stop at Wawa and get a couple snacks to keep me awake for the rest of the ride home. And, staying up so late and cover these. It reminds me of that. There's a great song by REM called Night Sleeper or Day Sleeper. I'm sorry. What am I thinking? So in that song by REM, Day Sleeper, there's a line in there about, your world is colored headache gray. And that's kind of the way I've felt now for like 2 weeks. Everything is headache gray when you get up in the morning. But you think about what you just witnessed last night and you're like, I can't wait to do it again today. So that's sort of where things are for me as a journalist, as a writer. This, you always, you root for the story. You want to tell a really cool story. And this has been just an amazing story. And, there are other good baseball teams out there and other good teams in any sport that has great postseason runs. A lot of times it's confined to the guys on that roster. But this one is not just being shared with the fans. It's the fans are part of it. The fans are part of it. Look, I think they rattled McCullers last night. Here's a pitcher who made a bunch of mistakes over the plate, and the Phillies pounded him. And I think the fans were part of that. The reason he made mistakes is because they rattled him. So, just hats off to everybody, Corey. I don't know which way you want to go with this, but there's a lot there.
Well, Lance McCullers, as Nick Castellanos pointed out, was kind of fidgety from his first few pitches of the night. Yeah. He walks Kyle Schwarber. That had to get in his head a little bit. I turned to you at one point. I said, this just has to be intimidating. You have the fans who didn't sit down. Even prior to Bryce Harper's 2-run homer, nobody had sat down in the bottom of the first inning. The entire stadium was still on its feet, throaty. Lance McCullers is not, he is not accustomed to what happened last night. He hadn't allowed any home runs on his breaking balls. Well, he allowed 2 to the Phillies, including 1 on a hanger to Bryce Harper. He was catching too much plate. He paid for every mistake. You hear throughout the season when you watch 162 games, you see a guy get a fastball right down the middle and foul it back to the screen. And you think, oh, if he only capitalized on that mistake. The Phillies have been capitalizing on mistakes in every round of the playoffs. And, there are many different avenues to go here as well. But this is also the 3rd different team they've shut out in the postseason. So it's been like a different guy every night. And last night it was a whole bunch of guys.
Yeah, it was. And you can't overlook the first pitch of the game. It's like every pitch matters. And the first pitch of that game, and we talked about this, Jose Altuve coming alive in game 2. Well, he hits the first pitch of the game, a sinking liner to right field. That's big if Jose Altuve is on the sacks that early. And his confidence builds a little bit more after a big game 2. And all of a sudden, this guy who was a very poor right fielder all year long, but has become this Gold Glover in October or November as well. Nick Castellanos, out of nowhere, makes like another sliding catch, his 3rd one of the postseason. They've been carbon copies, and that the crowd was already alive. The crowd was already alive at that point, but it just brought him to another level. And JT Realmuto, who is so smart and so fun to talk to after a game. I mean, he was like, I know this sounds ridiculous, but that was almost like a game-saving catch on the first play of the game, the first pitch of the game. Like it could have been a whole different game if that drops in. Now Realmuto, now Altuve is hot, and the Astros got a little bit of confidence. He's like, that was that catch built momentum for Ranger, got the crowd more crazy. And he was right. That was like a game-saving play in the first inning, as absurd as that sounds. And that was in the top of the first, and then the bottom of the first, Harper, first pitch, hanging slider, hits it to the Ben Franklin Bridge, and party on. The way he jumped out of his shoes at that slider, hanging slider. I mean, there were a couple things there. One, McCullers hangs it. It's not a good pitch. Harper recognizes it, kills it. That's how you hit. You kill mistakes. You make pitchers pay for mistakes. But Harper was already sitting slider because of their advance work. They knew that this is a guy who loves to throw sliders and breaking balls and curveballs and, be ready for them. And he was just he was ready for it. He was ready for it. There was all that talk about tipping pitches. And, I'm not ready to go there. Nor was Harper. He said that wasn't the case. Hoskins says that wasn't the case. And Realmuto was really strong in saying that wasn't the case. What they did say is our analytics people just did a great job game planning on this guy, telling us what to expect in certain counts, and we were looking for stuff. And when you combine that with McCullers just making mistakes, leaving pitches over the plate, hanging slider to Harper, hanging sinker to Bohm, and Bohm even said after the game, I know he likes to throw those sinkers to right-handers. Well, he got one. It was up, see it up, and kill it. And then he gives up 2 more home runs on sliders and 1 on a changeup. They were really prepared for McCullers, and McCullers didn't execute. And that proved to be a good combination for the Phillies and a bad combination for McCullers. But Nick Castellanos, was very generous in spreading praise and calling this a group win. And he included, he phrased it as the people whose jobs it is to come up with this information and make us look good, i.e. the analytics folks who do advanced work that way. He credited them, and he's right. They were a huge part of this because they had their hitters going into the batter's box, and Kevin Long and his hitting staff, they had those hitters going into the batter's box with an idea, with a plan, with confidence, and they just executed the heck out of it.
Speaking of teams that are just crushing it right now, how about Team Toyota in Langhorne, Princeton, and Glen Mills? New Toyota inventory is finally starting to come back, and yet they're still not charging over MSRP. And with over 200 certified Toyotas, including a bunch of RAV4 and Highlanders, you can drive one home today. Plus, their service centers and body shops will keep your vehicle safe all season long. You're always the MVP at Team Toyota. Just visit teamtoyota.net and choose from 3 locations in Langhorne, Princeton, or Glen Mills. McCullers didn't need to be tipping his pitches. I mean, if you look at the available data, the guy loves his breaking balls. And since the start of last season, opposing hitters have hit over 300 with a nearly 500 slugging percentage against his sinker compared to 175 against his slider, curveball, and changeup combined. So you know that that's where he's leaning. You know that's where he's going against lefties and where he's going to be going when he needs to, make a pitch. And the Phillies were just all over it in that sense. There were some great quotes from Nick Castellanos in that piece you wrote, Jim. One of them about the crowd with Castellanos saying, "The energy and atmosphere here is second to none. The only thing I can compare it to is a European soccer game. It's tough to play here. I can't imagine what it's like for the Astros right now. They just have zero breathing room, and that's a good thing." There's all the talk about how much of a swing game 3 is. And yes, the Phillies lead this series, and now they're favored to win the World Series. But beyond that, the Astros have to come back here, these next 2 games and try to perform in front of this crazy crowd that has even more confidence now than it did last night. The Phillies have Aaron Nola going tonight. You get out to a commanding 3-1 series lead here. You have a chance to finish it up at home. Who would have ever thought that would have been possible going into this World Series against the 106-win Astros? Then again, the Phillies have just sent these really good teams home. And since June 1st, the Phillies are now 77-48, Jim, including playoffs, which is a 100-win pace over a full season. So it's more than just a cool 1-month story. This team has been performing at a very high level for nearly the entire season, save for the first 2 months.
Yeah, they have. There's so much there. It's not how you start; it's how you finish. You can't let a slow start drag you down. You can point to the managerial change. You can point to Schwarber and Hoskins going nuts in June and giving everybody confidence and faith and reviving a dead team. You can point to the bullpen, which is a fatal flaw the last 2 seasons, kept them out of the playoffs. They went and had 3 really good months. You can point to the consistency of starting pitching. You can point to the resilience, how they overcame injuries and didn't let injuries get them down. Harper, Segura, Wheeler, Eflin. They okay, next man, So this team has done so many good things, and what we're seeing in October is sort of an accumulation of that and a continuation of that. I think back to September, they were grinding and they were squeezing the bat handle and they were pressing, and there were times they didn't look confident. Honestly, there were times they did not look confident in September. It looked like the weight of the world was on their shoulders. The weight of a 10-year playoff drought was on their shoulders, the pressure to break that drought because of the stars on the team and the payroll and all that other stuff. The fans, you're talking about fans' impact on the Astros and on lifting the Phillies. These guys heard all, the talk in the month of September that, it's another September swoon. They heard it all. They heard the doubts. And I think that weighed on them. But ultimately, they got through that. This is a team that had only 3 sellouts all year. 3 sellouts all year. And now they've sold out 6 postseason games, but just not just sold them out. They're getting a lift, and these fans have become a weapon. So it's just amazing. October came. Ryan Helsley could not throw a strike, and it woke up a sleeping giant. That's what has happened here. Ryan Helsley could not throw a strike. They had great at-bats. 9th inning in St. Louis. They got on base. Segura gets a big hit. Marsh gets a big hit. Schwarber sacrifice fly. I'm trying to remember all this stuff. Seems like a blur, but
there was the ball that went by Nolan Arenado that he probbe makes 99 out of 100 times.
That was the hit by Marsh. That 1 inning snapped the Phillies into a state of confidence and a state of belief. And then they run the Cardinals off the road the next day. Harper homers early, and they're off and running. It's like, okay, we had 87 wins. We were the last team in the tournament, but you know what? We belong here. And you're just seeing what emotion and belief and momentum and chemistry can do for a team It unlocks so many of these great performances we're seeing. And then, the guy who you jump on his back, Harper, he gets hot, hitting dramatic home runs, and that just it just feeds through an entire team and it carries them. But it seems like a different team from September to October, and obviously it is. They're just running people off the road with playing with confidence, playing loose. Played tight in September, playing incredibly loose here in October, and now November, and it's put them 2 wins away from winning the World Series. I mean, I don't think they're underdogs. A lot of people say they're underdogs. They have $240 million payroll. They have the best catcher in baseball. They have, Bryce Harper's going to be in the Hall of Fame. They have, Schwarber, an $80 million player. They have Hoskins. They have Castellanos. They have 2 studs at the top of their rotation. I don't know how you can call them an underdog, especially when you frame it around how well they've played since June 1. It's a team that's just got it all going on right now, and it is backed by an amazing, fan base that is giving them even more energy than the performance and the victories are.
Jim, you hearkening back to that Ryan Helsley implosion in the first game of the Phillies playoff run. It's easy to forget that the Phillies were scoreless through the first 8 innings there. Yeah. The first 8 innings, it was looking more like the 2007 playoffs, and it's like every inning since has looked more like the 2008 playoffs, with the Phillies jumping out to early series leads, losing game 2, winning game 3, being undefeated at home, using the home field advantage. There are just so many similarities between the 2 seasons. Bryce Harper, by the way, I know we've talked about him a lot already, but just how about these numbers at home this postseason? 10 for 25, hitting 400, with 4 homers, 3 doubles, and 11 RBIs in 6 games at Citizens Bank Park here in October and November. His teammates refer to him as a showman. The fact that, he hits the game-winning home run to end the NLCS, and then his first home run, first at bat at home in the World Series goes deep. It's almost like when this guy steps to the plate right now, everybody in the ballpark is thinking one thing, and he keeps delivering. It's incredible. This is the top-level pitching that he's facing, and he's just having a lot of good at-bats right now.
I think everybody in the ballpark is thinking one thing, and he's doing it. I mean, the NLCS home run and the game 3 home run last night, they came on basically consecutive pitches. In the course of 2 swings at Citizens Bank Park, he maybe changed 2 series. He won one of them, and he might have, you go up 2-1. That's big swing game. So, yeah, he's amazing. You wonder when they're going to stop pitching to him, but, they're getting runners on base, and sometimes you have to pitch to him, and then the whole lineup is delivering. So that makes it, difficult not to pitch to him because somebody else might burn you. So complete team effort here.
Yeah, and Ranger Suarez gave the Phillies a really strong start in Game 3. It began with that Nick Castellanos catch. I asked Suarez about that after the game, and what he said was, it's like when that play, he said that was an incredible play to start the game. It actually made me think, if we're starting like this, it's only going to finish even better. And it did. Ranger Suarez cruised from there on. 5 innings, 2 hits, just 3 men on base over 5 scoreless innings. He was working on 1 day fewer rest than usual, which explained the lower workload, throwing only 76 pitches. But Ranger Suarez has been money in these playoffs. He's appeared in 5 games. He has a 1.23 ERA with a whip just over 1. He's been the best starter so far in the World Series after Nola and Wheeler each allowed 5 runs in games 1 and 2. If this series does go to 7 games, the Phillies would have Suarez again on regular rest, and they have to be loving that based on how he's performed in the postseason.
Yeah, because if it goes 7, Minute Maid Park's going to be electric. It's going to be a tough environment, but this kid's composure is amazing. It is just amazing, and it always has been. He's, even when he was in the minor, even when it was the A-ball. I remember he pitched a no-hitter, I think, for Williamsport, and I remember talking to people who watched him on the way up, baseball people, scouts from other teams, and everybody liked him. They liked the way he went right at hitters, and one of the things people liked about him is he had this healthy cockiness that he felt like he could almost do anything. When he was young, I think there was some worry that maybe it could be too much, but to me, he's got that perfect composure and that perfect amount of cockiness. What a job he has done. What a job he did burying that fastball or cut fastball, whatever you want to call it, inside on right-handers last night. And his stuff was up. He was up what, a mile and a half on everything.
Yeah.
So he was loaded with adrenaline, and you could see from that center field camera angle that his stuff had this just late life. And it's hard to explain, but you can see it when it's there. And he had that late life, getting it by hitters, and he coupled that with what he really needs is to just pinpoint command, and he has the ability to have that pinpoint location. He took the bats out of their hands, and he got run support. Just outstanding.
Yeah, the top 5 hitters in the Astros order, 5 really good bats, talking Altuve, Pena, Bregman, Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker. They went 0 for 11 against Ranger Suarez with 7 groundouts and a strikeout. He had a couple Ks looking. He was, as you said, he was really hitting that inside corner against righties. It was just, it was the best of Ranger Suarez. And Bryce Harper had a good line about Suarez talking about that demeanor, saying when they announced his name pregame, he probably had no idea they were even announcing him, and people were going crazy because that's just how he is. His demeanor out there, he just pitches to his strengths. It's always fun to see him get a ground ball or line drive hit back to him. He's so at ease about everything he does. That's so true. He gets 1 or 2 of those a game. It's kind of crazy. Suarez led all pitchers this season in assists, despite the fact that he threw 155 innings. There are just so many balls that get hit back to him. He's a Gold Glove caliber defensive player. There was another one last night where there was a liner right back at him, gets his glove on it, doesn't catch it, but he has the ability to pick it back up and fire over to first base to get the out. And then another, really important component of last night's win, Jim, is that the Phillies were able to avoid using their 4 most important relievers. No Sir Anthony Dominguez, no Jose Alvarado, no Zach Eflin, no David Robertson. Alvarado was warming up at one point in the 5th inning, but the Phillies then extended their lead to make it 7-0, so there was no need to bring him in. And Sir Anthony Dominguez was warming up at one point in the 8th inning, but Nick Nelson was able to wiggle out of a jam, so they didn't need to use Dominguez. Now that all those guys are fully rested, you'd think would be able to go back-to-back games in games 4 and 5 if needed. Yeah,
and I think what it tells me is Rob Thompson's going to be really aggressive tonight in game 4. You get 4 and change, 5 out of Aaron Nola with a lead. Shake his hand. Thank you very much. And, kind of carbon copy of game 1. Get to Alvarado early, when Alvarez is around or Tucker's around, and seize that game when you can. So the fact that those key guys are ready to go, and with the way Rob Thompson has been so aggressive this postseason, I would look for him to continue that. And Aaron Nola's been hit hard his last 2 starts. He traditionally pitches well at home, has pitched well at home. I'm sure the fans, I think the fans are very appreciative of the work he did in the clincher in the first 2 postseason games. He pitched some real big ball games. They're going to be really supporting this kid, and I know he wants to deliver for them.
It's Aaron Nola against Christian Javier, the tough right-hander of the Astros. Javier is a big-time bat misser, elite-level swing and miss stuff. Last 2 seasons, he has the 4th highest strikeout rate in Major League Baseball, trailing only Garrett Cole, Blake Snell, and one other name that I'm forgetting in this moment. Mostly fastballs and sliders, but this is going to be a tough spot for this kid. Young, inexperienced pitcher who did, dominate the Yankees over 5 1/3 one-hit innings in the ALCS. But I can't imagine that he's too excited to step onto the mound at Citizens Bank Park after what he saw last night.
It's a tough environment. Castellanos was saying it's tough. It's a tough environment for, if you're on the home team, it's a tough environment to play. And he said he couldn't imagine what it's like to be on the visiting side. And, elite athletes have an ability to shut that out and execute. So it's up to him to do that. And if he doesn't, the Phillies are going to be up 3-1 and sitting awfully pretty in this thing. We'll see. You can't, like I said, you can't wait to do it again the next day and find out what's going to happen.
Right. Well, there's this, uncertainty about Zach Wheeler, whose velocity was down in game 2, and he's supposed to start in game 6. But, the Phillies have a chance to end this series before he even gets to game 6. And, that would be the goal here. Close it out in front of the home fans. have that song blaring again, Dancing on My Own. This has just been a pretty incredible playoff run, really one of the most improbable playoff runs in baseball history, you'd have to say, right, Jim?
Yeah, it's been. I would agree with you. It's been, but again, I don't think they're underdogs. I just think they're a team that has found their mojo and is a team that is continuing what they've done since June 1st, gotten over some September struggles. A team that is playing well, a team that believes in itself, a team that's got something special going, no question. And I'll go back to what I said, 3 weeks ago. Sometimes it just feels like it's this guy Rob Thompson's time, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's like everything he touches turns to gold. It's been going that way for months, and man, in the playoffs, it's been even more pronounced. Thanks for listening to the Phillies Talk podcast. Game 4 is tonight. Aaron Nola against Christian Javier as the Phillies look to take a commanding lead in the 2022 World Series. Thanks a lot for listening. Catch you tomorrow morning.